There are many ways to conduct a meeting like this, many atmospheres, many spirits in which we can perceive. For the first 4 meetings, we have been quite serious, quite intense, thinking hard, trying to understand these things, which is good and necessary. However, in this, our last meeting of the series, I am going to deliberately change my spirit, my viewpoint, my attitude toward the meeting. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Now I want you to understand what this means. There's a time to be intensely serious about this. Listen careful to what's being said, to try to understand it, to work real hard. That is necessary. There's also another spirit, either in an individual or in a group, in a meeting, where your light-hearted spirit, do you want to call it that? A little more easygoing. You're just as alert, just as receptive, working just as hard, but a certain part of you is lighter. You're more relaxed, maybe even sit a little more relaxed in your chair. At the same time you're awake and working real hard. Now in this, our last meeting, I would like all of us, all of you, myself, to be quite relaxed. You'll feel it as soon as we get going, as soon as you participate a little bit. Just take a deep breath and relax and enjoy it in a different way. Sometimes we get shocked by these things. I know you have, and you should be. You may be a little bit shocked this morning, but it's a different mood, a different spirit in this last meeting. So do relax and just enjoy it as well as working real hard. And it's necessary, by the way, as a little side thought, when you have a series of talks, that the first ones, the first few, should always be quite serious. Not much levity, not much lightness to them, except as happens accidentally, more or less. Because parts of you, and maybe parts of people who have come for the first time, because they're thinking mechanically and cannot see all sides at once, all methods at once, they will think, or part of you may think, well, this is too light-hearted and too informal. And to be spiritual, you have to be serious, and they're thinking of Acts. They're still thinking of the time when they go to church and they nod when the preacher says something, and they're conscious that they're nodding. It's very complex to explain. But once we are real serious and understand what that means, we can deliberately change ourselves and adopt another spirit, which is just as valuable. You are understanding this. So this morning, this is what we're going to do. It's going to be very informal. You may speak up when you wish at the right time, ask questions, make comments, take part in it as much as you want. And a bit later, you will all have the opportunity to do this to the extent that you want to do it. So, to start this off, in our Boulder City group, we put people, all of us, in uncomfortable positions so that we're deliberately nervous. Now we see how nervous we can be made by exterior conditions. And so, observing it, we can work on it. We're not comfortable up there. We don't want to be comfortable. So everyone is requested, you better do it. You don't have to if you don't want to. You can't give people too much. To give short talks of just 2 or 3 minutes. Something that is valuable to everyone else. Anything you want. You name the subject. You give us something, but the main thing, to get up there and be nervous and even be foolish if you want to, because no one is condemning anyone. So, we're going to give you a taste of what we do up there, a small taste, by showing you how we operate up there. Sally, please.
Have I to stand?
Yeah, please stand. And come over, would you come over here, please, all of you?
Mm-hmm. You want me to sit and you sit?
No, you stand there.
All right. In the office one morning, somebody flattered me. They said I did a job very well. And at the time I thought to myself, I'm really not good at doing this. I really didn't believe it. However, during the course of the morning, I kept seeing this little flattering thought come into my mind, and it gave me a very pleasant feeling. It continued, it came in, and each time, of course, it was very nice. It made me feel really pleasant. And I realized that this was me clinging to a thought. And this clinging to a thought is how we build images. And this is the whole image building process. Somebody says something to us which has no basis on fact. We may not believe it in the beginning, like I didn't, but we churn it over in our minds and we actually come to believe it. And had I not noticed that this is what I was doing, maybe at the end of that day I would actually have believed that I was terrific at doing whatever it was I was flattered at. I'd forgotten what it was. Now, had I done that, I would have an image based on my imagination, not on reality, and if anyone dares contradict this image that I have built, I am going to become angry with him, irritated. I'm going to have all these negative emotions, right? Now, let's say that I am very good at whatever this person complimented me at. I'm very good at it. Even if I am, this thought should just have passed completely through my mind, and I shouldn't have clung to it. You see what I mean? It should automatically, we shouldn't cling to thoughts, because this is what's making us me. This is what's destroying me. This clinging. And somebody else doesn't need to see it. Of course, I can have all these images in my mind, make them up for myself, that I'm great, I'm the best. And this is what's destroying us, and this is what's our image building.
Good. Rudy, please.
I'm going to talk on the importance of impartial self-observation and the need to be aware on moments during the day so you can start separating from your conditioned self. Sally gave a pretty good talk on the image forming process. That's why it is necessary to observe yourself during the day and become aware of yourself, what you're doing at some moments during the day, so you can start separating and be able to catch yourself when these images start rotating in your mind, this thought that comes to you. Otherwise, you will not be able to do it, will not be able to catch them. Like for example, when I gave the example of sweeping, the thoughts were coming to me that people were thinking about me. And so I started hurrying. And this was pushing me, and then I said, but what am I doing? I am sweeping, and that's all there is to it. So I become aware of what I'm doing. Next time, I might become just a little bit more sharper. I can see the whole process of how a simple flattery overtakes me, how this process starts forming images inside me. That's why it is very necessary to find moments during your day where you start separating from everything. Become aware of where you are and observing yourself, like right now. Observe yourself, what you're feeling. Actually, what you're feeling, you can actually observe it very well, because that's tremendous, the feelings that you get. This will keep reminding you what you really are, so you won't go to the other side where you're overtaken by flattery. For example, I might be thinking that I am pretty smart, intelligent, in control of myself. But if I'm able to observe myself during the day, I will start finding out that it's not so. And also, that's self-observation. That's to to keep me on the right track, so I know where I'm going to work at. Awareness is to break out, to forget this conditioned self, to start separating from it. That is, I'm right here, I'm sweeping, and I can see myself doing it, feeling myself. So next time, when a negativity attacks, I'm able to catch it before it enters. For example, Vernon said, you can see the fear coming through the door, or some negativity coming through the door, and you won't allow it to come in then, to overtake you. Because once it overtakes you, it's going to drag you down. Like the negativities are worrying about whether you're making progress or not, worrying about just about anything. That's why it's very necessary to start observing yourself and becoming aware of yourself.
Thank you. Did you volunteer, John? Did I understand you? Huh? Fine, thank you.
One of the things it says in one of the books is that whatever we imagine ourselves to be, or if we have an idea of ourselves, we're certainly not like that. And one little example of that is I always imagined that I was very good at math, and I always thought that I could do all kinds of complex mathematical problems. And in this past year, when I started working with my husband in office machines business, I had a very practical opportunity of applying what math I did know, which, and I discovered I couldn't do very simple things. And gradually, when I began to realize that this was one little image that I had built up, after that time, at least I could begin to listen and to learn how to do simple math and even a little more complex. But as long as we have any kind of a picture of ourselves, it blocks us from even being able to progress normally in that way.
Fine. Joan.
The thought came to me last night that in a way I wish I could hear with the same ears that I heard with when I first came into contact with Mr. Howard's books and his talk, because at that time I took everything very personally, and when he talked about, he'd point to someone in another part of the room or talked about people, I would take it and apply it personally and feel that he was talking to me and about me. Somewhere along the line, a certain amount of perhaps smugness or self-righteousness seemed to crawl in. And I've gone through a long period of hearing him say people this or people that, and feeling, oh yes, that's very true of people, and not turning it back on myself and seeing how it applies to me. This has been, it was brought home to me quite a bit in the last few weeks, certainly, and I'm working on trying to put myself in every position, because I realize that when he's talking, he means me. Now, the things that he says applies to everyone, but I can't know what's going on inside of other people. I can, with hard work, know what's going on inside of me. But as long as I think that he's talking about Sally and Rudy and Juan and not me, then I'm not going to be able to see what I need to see. And this, of course, will block any kind of self-understanding that I need and that I would ordinarily, that I would otherwise have. So, if any of you have found, this is a little sharing of an experience, but I hope it will be helpful to some people, if you hear him say, people are violent, instead of sitting and nodding sagely, think for a few moments, does this apply to me? And be as honest with yourself as you can, because you find out that it does. All of these things apply to all of us. We may have ways of masking things that from ourselves, and perhaps to some degree from other people, but all of these negativities are within all of us, and as long as we think that it's only the other people in the room to whom they apply, we'll lose the effectiveness of everything that we've heard this weekend.
And I had Now you're going to
Excuse me,
see
do you
how
want-
spiritual I
excuse me,
am.
get on this.
You're actually going to take a good look at me. I'm going to tell you how I work. Sally was first, Rudy, then Regina. There's a purpose for that, but I have to catch it. I want to be first. I want to be the first one to get up here, and nobody knows it better than Vernon.
To get it over with.
Right,
That's why you were last.
right. But I have to catch that. He won't tell me that. I have to find it out for myself. Amen. You know what I've been doing here for the last 2 or 3 days? I've been observing every one of you. Every one of you. Well, with the exception of this little kitten. I see myself in every one of you. Every one of you is a mirror to me. I don't condemn her. I'm like her. She got up over here for the first time and she's nervous. So am I. And every one of us is a mirror to the other person. I've been working right now, observing myself towards you, my reactions toward you, and your reactions toward me. I'm not going back 2 or 3 days ago. I'm working right now at this moment. How I feel right now, how I react. So now every one of you know how spiritual I am. By this, I mean I have to be working right now, watch my reactions. Right now, at this very moment. I am nervous, and I'm not hiding it. Because there's something in all of us that we're trying to hide. I'm always trying to be brave. And something in me is putting a resistance right now. But I have to go through it. And that's the way it works.
You know, I also have been observing you, and when we come into a room, into this room, from that room over there, a different psychology takes over in most people's minds. And in one way it should, because when we're talking informally out in the kitchen or in the dining room, living room there, we talk informally and sometimes we interrupt each other and overlap. I wish, though, that when you come in here, you could bring in a certain right portion of that relaxed spirit of talking that you have out there. But when you come in here, you get stiff and tense. Many of you are sitting here mentally and physically tense because when you come in here, this room with all these people and all this different situation takes you over. And this is an example of letting an exterior atmosphere tell you how to feel. If we were sitting informally around the table in there with coffee in front of us, some of you would be able to talk quite fluently and quite at length. And you might say everything on the level of knowledge quite correctly. But when you come in here, you stiffen up. This is because the wrong kind of self-consciousness takes over. And it's very important that you watch yourself, the difference, that the thing that happens to you when you walk from that room into here. Then you can bring this relaxation into here, and you can think better, and you might be able to get up and give a talk. Some of you probably wouldn't want to do it. And you would just stand up here and talk just as relaxed as you do in there, because you're not conscious there. You're all friends and everybody's smiling at you. The point being, be aware of how you are in a different state in this very room than when you were in there. You're much more confident, generally using the term confidence in the general term, in there than in here. You see this? Yeah. Does anyone have any comments at all on anything anyone said? Any comments in any way at all? You may volunteer if you wish. If not, we'll go on. Yes?
Yeah, I'd like to blab a couple of minutes.
Go ahead. Do you wish to stand up? All right, fine.
All right, for 30 minutes.
Excuse me just a minute, please. Any of you who wish to do so, raise your hand and the floor is yours for 2 or 3 minutes. Go ahead.
For 30 minutes, my mechanical... I'm not going to talk to you. I'm going to talk to myself. You want to listen, fine. For 30 minutes, my
Face
mechanical
the audience,
mind...
please. Face the audience.
My mechanical mind has conditioned me. Do I get up here and do I give a Mormon testimonial? Do I talk to businessmen? Do I talk to a biblical group? Or what do I do to please you? In the last couple of days, I reword his words into Larry's words, and I say this: whenever I think or believe that the whole world is against me, I refuse to resist. then freedom will be mine. I take his words that he gave us yesterday, put them into my words for my feelings, and there is where I stand. I too was waiting to be chosen the first ahead of you so I could do it and get it the hell out of the way in case he called on me, and I was prepared for anything. But I don't need any preparation.
Do we have any volunteers? You can go on as long as you want. It's up to you. Liv? Stand here because that's about as close to the mic as you can get.
One of Mr. Howard's phrases, one of the New Testament phrases, is that our function or our work here is to come home. Another way of stating it is to find our true self. In about 1 minute, all that I would like to talk about is what that really means emotionally or in terms of inner feeling. Doris asked yesterday, what can we do to increase the measure of joyousness within our life? In those occasions where I felt the work personally the strongest, there has been nothing but joy there. How could there be anything but joy if we perceive that our true nature, our real self, is complete, is harmonious, and has no other function than to simply discover the world in all of its glory and all of its beauty, and to know God, of which we are ourselves a complete part. Let's say a part which is on its way to greater completion. The freedom that's associated with this, the lightness, is our real aim. It's one way of stating what we are really trying to achieve in the work. When all of the falseness is gone, there's nothing left but that quality. In the commentaries, Nicole calls it ecstasy. And it's been suggested in that same term by others who sought to discover it. And all the techniques that we're talking about, self-observation, problems of forming images, are all the things that slow down the movement of energy within us, that make us more dead, more unhappy. And all of the work is about simply the subject of coming home to our true nature, which is to be God. To quote one certain worker named Gurdjieff, he said that behind our real self is God himself.
Any volunteers? All right, we'll go on to something else. Mechanical thinking is like a dam that bursts, and all the water pressure in back of it suddenly floods down the valley, knocking down houses, not knowing where it's going, not knowing when to stop, because it has all this pressure behind it. And this is the way we are conditioned, and this is the way this natural faulty part of us that we have when we're born is encouraged by society to just blab, to think endlessly, to be desperate, to be frantic, to run around for answers. And it's so incredible that it never dawns on us that we never find the answer that way. No matter what we do, what we achieve, we try to get rich and that doesn't work, so we try prayer and that doesn't work. We try living in daydreams and that nothing works. And it so rarely occurs to us to say the simple statement, this is not doing a thing for me, what else is there? But then we make the next mistake of finding another phony answer. All this is a part of mechanical, unconscious thinking. This is what we're trapped in. We've all been observing each other, perhaps in these meetings and out in the kitchen, and we've seen instances of this in each other. So what we're going to do is a little experiment here, a little workshop session with all of us involved, whereby we're going to try to become conscious of how endlessly we think and blab, because the mind gets the mouth and tongue going and we never stop. And there's no answer there, because thought and talking is all on this level. It can only go on a flat surface. It can never go up. We can become conscious how much we talk, how much we think pointlessly and without a right aim. There's right thinking, if it has an aim to wake up. If we can become more aware of how we waste our minds in useless thinking, that can give us the first clue that maybe there is something outside of mechanical thinking, which there is, which is we've described before as consciousness, understanding, call it what you want. But first, we must see how we're taken over by mechanical thinking, how we never want to stop thinking, because if we stop thinking, we'll catch a glimpse of our emptiness and be terrified. This is why you think and why you get emotional, because you know that if you ever stop for 1 second, you'll see through your falsehood and it will terrify you. This is why you have to stop thinking, so that you will be terrified and go beyond it. Right? Go beyond it. See it? You can't go around terror. You have to go right straight through the center of it to the what's on the other side, which there is something. So we're going to have a little experiment whereby we're going to start to use our minds right. Use our mind right. Then we can go on to doing other things correctly. So, I'm going to give you a word. I'm just going to pull any out of the air that occurs to me. It doesn't make any difference what word it is. And I would like any of you who would like to volunteer to do this. I'll give you the word as an example. I'll give you the word the, T-H-E. I would like you, any of you, to give the rest of us a short, clear, concise sentence and then stop. The only thing you're going to do is give us one single sentence. It might be one word. It might be 10 words. Do not make a long, rambling sentence. So that maybe tomorrow when you're out in the kitchen or you're driving your car, you will practice it for yourself. You will practice thinking in short, concise, clear sentences instead of rambling thought. See? This cuts you off right now, and it gives a short space between two thoughts. And this is what we're after. To get this space between two thoughts where there is something else that is not a part of thought, which is maybe a flash of insight, a flash of understanding. So this exercise will help us do this. Do you understand what you're going to do? I'm going to give you a first word. You start the sentence with this word. There's a reason for this. I want a certain amount of discipline in it. And also, it forces you to think a little bit harder. First, any sentence will start with any word, but I'll give you a word, and you volunteer something that's a work word, something that's helpful, anything at all, anything that would be beneficial, and stop right at the end of that, and you're through. Then you stop. Someone else will give another. Let's start with the word it. Give us a sentence starting with the word it that would be beneficial to the rest of us. One word to up to where it makes a suitable sentence one.
It is very painful to pretend to be someone.
I will repeat some of these for the sake of the tape here. One said, it is very painful to pretend to be someone. Good, short. What? Look, you can see that. Isn't that clear? What is clearer than that? Now go ahead. You have to work. You can't sit here. You're asked to give one sentence and you sit there. Rudy, son, who had their hand up?
It is a beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day. All right. The weather is very nice.
It is my aim to awaken.
It is my aim to awaken.
It is beautiful to find your true self.
It is beautiful to find your true self.
It is necessary to work hard.
It is necessary to work harder. Yes?
It is good to have unexpected events.
It is good to have unexpected events.
It is good to think with simplicity.
It is good to think with simplicity, which is our aim in this little experiment. Yes?
It's important not to identify.
It is important not to be identified.
It can be done.
It can be done. That comes right to the point, doesn't it? Do you know, by the way, that there is right encouragement, and she just gave one. There is right encouragement. Most encouragement is false. God will save you if you pray, or, you know, all the false encouragements which mislead people. That is right encouragement. This is an easy word, it. Where do you get to a harder one? Any more on it? Because I'm going to switch words every so often.
It is now.
Pardon?
It is now.
It is now, all right?
It is difficult to stay awake.
It is difficult to stay awake.
It's good to know that we don't have to be pushed around by outside people, things, and events.
It is good to know that we don't have to be pushed aside by outside people and events.
It is necessary in the work to think on different levels.
It is necessary in the work to think on different levels. All right, pause with it. Let's go on to another one. Switch things. Dick gave a good one, something about the unexpected. This is what it's for. When something is thrown at you and you are challenged suddenly, watch how, well, what am I going to do? It's very easy on you because you can sit and wait for the next man. Suppose I pointed to you and said, give me a sentence. You'd sit there and freeze. You don't know how easy it is on you. Take the word and start a sentence with the word when, W-H-E-N.
When I identify, I fall asleep.
When I identify, I fall asleep.
When I see the negative characteristics in others, I am mirroring myself.
When I see the negative characteristics in others, I am a mirror. I've mirrored myself. Right.
When will we ever learn?
When will we ever learn? Question mark. Yes.
When the time is right, I will move.
When the time is right, I will move. I don't know whether you mean geographically or inwardly, but you do.
When I see the negative, it is positive.
When I see the negative, it is what?
Positive.
It is, yes, that is great. Think about it. Let's pause for a minute. When I see the negative, that is positive. Why, Sally?
Because until I see it, I'm never going to find out about it. I'm never going to know it exists.
When I see there are weeds in my garden, I can get rid of the weeds. Now the garden is going to grow properly. If I ignore the weeds, it's going to be a mess. When? One.
When I am free of all events, I am free.
When I am free of all events, I am free. Excuse me. This lady.
When I'm uncomfortable, I can work.
When I am uncomfortable, I can work if I do. Yeah.
When I realize the only problem is myself, I'm on the right track.
When I realize that the only problem is myself, I'm on the right track. I'm repeating these so we get them quite clearly, because some of these wouldn't come on the tape back then.
When I glimpse the horror of my life, I work harder.
When I glimpse the horror of my life, I work harder, indeed. If I don't let the horror downcast me. When I am depressed at what I see, another wrong move, right? Now that's egotism upon egotism. Self-centeredness upon self-centeredness.
When I am negative, I am losing energy.
When I am negative, I am losing energy. All right, go ahead.
When I'm willing to pay the price, I can make progress.
When I'm willing to pay the price, I can make progress. Let's switch now. The word out, O-U-T. May get a little harder. You have to think a little harder now.
Out with negatives.
Pardon?
Out with negatives.
Out with negatives. Good.
Out is what I want.
Out is what I want. An English teacher wouldn't pass that. Yes.
Out of my life go negative thoughts.
Out of my life go negative thoughts. Did I see?
Out of self-observation comes growth.
Yes. Out of self-observation comes growth. All right. Go ahead.
If possible, if a joke, a clean joke fits in here, I have one without. It might have a point.
Does it have something to do with...
Yes.
All right, he has a joke, and he
All
says
right.
it has some contribution to
There
it.
were two baby skunks. One was named out and one was named in. So, in went out, and the mother said, out, go out and find in and bring in. So out went out and find in, find in out, and couldn't find in to bring in. So, the mother skunk says, out, where is in? Out said, in is out. So Mother Skunk went out and brought in, and out asked, how did you do it, Mother? Mother said, instinct, instinct, instinct.
The word try.
Try to be yourself.
Try to be yourself.
Try to remember.
Try to remember.
Try to work harder.
Try to work harder. Switch. If. I-F.
If isn't. If isn't. If isn't.
If isn't. I don't connect that.
If is something you wish.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
You say, if I had have went to school, I would have done this.
Oh, may I explain? Try to make a complete sentence that can stand by itself.
Okay.
Make it stand by itself, please. If.
If we want to badly enough, we can find a way out.
If we want it badly enough, we can find a way out.
If I dwell on a thought, I'm stopping thought.
If I am dwell on a thought, I am
Stopping thought.
stopping thought. Yes, yes. Clogging. Clustering. Now,
If I'm one with myself, who can hurt me?
if I am one with myself, who can hurt me? Now we're going to make it just a little more difficult. All right, let's just relax for 1 minute. Please don't leave. We'll change the tape and go on. All right, we're going to make it a little more difficult. Give us a sentence starting with the word R, A-R-E, and make it end in a question. Son?
Are we ever going to learn?
Are we ever going to learn? Very good. Very good.
Are you all there?
Are you all there?
Are you observing now?
Are you observing now?
Are we being as honest with ourselves as we possibly can?
Are we being as honest with ourselves as we possibly can?
Are you happy?
Are you happy? Whatever that is.
Are you willing to work?
Are you willing to work?
Are you alive?
Are you alive?
Are my thoughts free of condemnation?
Are my thoughts free of condemnation? All right, pause here now. Now we're going to make it even more difficult. You see, you say one clear sentence. You're clear in your mind what it's all about. Now, we're going to take the very simple word A, the letter A, as your first word in a sentence. And guess what? You're going to put two short sentences together. The first one starts with A, and the second one can start with anything you like. You understand, I hope you understand this is not a game we're playing. This is work. We want to climb mountaintops, and we're not even walking along the level ground to where the mountain starts. We're walking along level ground so that when we get to the mountain, we can climb it. Start a sentence with the letter A, then add any second sentence you like, starting with any letter you like, that has a reasonable logical connection with the first. Example: a good way to work is to keep yourself uncomfortable at all times. Period. This is because you can observe yourself being uncomfortable and therefore see your actual condition as opposed to the artificial view you have of yourself. Understand? The first sentence with the letter A, the second sentence with any letter you like, but I want a logical connection, a little lot, see, just anyway, between the two. A, the letter A, the
A
word
good
A.
natural instinct will lead me out of the smell of society today.
What is your second sentence?
Will lead me out of society today.
No, now see, we have to
I'll
be
put a
good.
comment in
Now,
there.
yeah, put a period there. We have to be, look, in this group, not just everyone, not just to this day, when you are given instructions, you listen to those instructions, and you follow those instructions. This is why we all got in trouble in school when the teachers, we don't pay attention. That's maybe halfway excusable to a kid, but it's not excusable to us. You listen to what you're told. Follow orders. Sounds authoritative, but it isn't. For our sakes, we didn't. Put a period after the first sentence, then start a new sentence.
A right mind is a right mind.
Try, take your time.
A right mind is a free mind. Work for it.
Very good. A right mind is a free mind, work for it.
A person that is asleep is acting mechanical. By awakening and self-observation, they can climb out of the mechanical.
I'm not going to repeat them now that they have two sentences, so you're going to have to speak up. Do speak up loudly so it might catch some of these long ones. Yes.
All work.
What?
All work. Oh, it must be the A. Sing
See,
it
you
right.
don't remember.
Okay.
You can start over. Anyone in the...
Okay. A work project involves effort. If we understand the purpose of our effort, it will be more effective.
All right?
A short sentence is hard for me to say. Period.
Period.
Because I blabber so much. Period.
No, you don't start the second sentence with because, but you're trying. You could put a comma there and then a small because, but you can't put a big B there and not pass a grammar test at least. The letter A.
A man who sees himself as he is ready to work. So, a man who sees himself as he is ready to work. That is positive.
What more do you need? That is positive, period.
A thought comes into my mind. I can choose to drop it.
The thought comes into my mind, I can choose to drop it, and I repeated that one because it was short enough for me to memorize. Look, I'll tell you how to do it. See, you try to think of too much at once. You think of one sentence, your first sentence. You get that this time without thinking about your second sentence. Then I want you to pause when you come to the period of your first sentence and then think of your second sentence. Think about one at a time. Do you understand? Put all your great, brilliant mind power into the one single first sentence. Don't think about, try not to, don't do it. The first sentence, and then pause, and then sit in embarrassment and struggling real hard while everybody's looking at you, and think of the second one. Do that from now on. Just the first sentence, you don't dare have the second one. Okay.
A glimpse of truth is what we are after. That indeed should be our inspiration.
All right, I guess you can start a sentence with then, can you not? Any English teachers here? Just the first sentence, and then pause and think of the second one. That makes logic. Now, that was good logic, Rudy, in spite of your bad grammar.
The reason I don't hear is because I don't listen without my mind.
Say that again, please.
The reason I do not hear is because I do not listen without my mind, without my mechanical mind.
Okay, all right, that's clearer.
For me to try to hear, I must listen. Doesn't make sense, but there it is.
No, I understand. That's not a bad sentence. We understand what that means.
Comma, I put a comma in there too. No, I didn't hear it. Sorry, I will half quote. Now what did I say that I've said it?
Yeah, that's all right. That's fine.
A tremendous wish to awaken is necessary. Work on that.
She chose the easy way out with a very short one. Just the first sentence. Think about it only. Then pause and think about the next one. That makes a connection with the first one. Yes?
A baby crawls before he walks. We can develop awareness by watching ourselves shave in the morning.
Very good. We'll go on for this for another few minutes, so if you want to do this, take your opportunity now within the next few minutes, then we're going on to something else. But continue with putting two. Look, why don't you go home and do this by yourself as well as in here, and then make it very difficult on yourself by putting 3 sentences together, and maybe 4. And when it comes to the point where you simply can't remember it, put it down on paper. Pretty soon you may write a book. You do this. This is very helpful for you to see the results of your thinking on a piece of paper. And you must do it right. Don't skip grammar rules. We understand they're artificial and man-made, but you stick to the grammar rules under which we communicate with each other. Yes?
A weekend like this is a disturbing experience. We should all be seeking disturbing experience.
Okay.
A negative mind is like living in the slums. You can decide to move today.
That's good. That's good writing. All right? We're going to lose practically all of you now. We're going to try it for a short period until we end this with 3 sentences. Just think of the first, give us the second as it comes to you, then the third. Who is brave? Okay?
A group like this is hard to find.
Period.
Period. I've looked a long time, a long ways. Long time, a long way. Period.
Period.
I'm happy I'm here.
Period.
Period.
A person builds images out of past conditioning. To break these images, he must become awake. To be awake, he must observe himself.
See what you're doing? You're thinking about your thinking with the right aim in mind. To become clear up here. That's what we're doing, to become clear. Become concise, to become short, right to the point. Go on, anyone. Yes?
A way out is available. It is like the kingdom of heaven. It is within.
Very good. That was good short sentences, all of them. A sentence and your thinking can be longer. It can be long if it is clear, if it doesn't ramble. Put one clear thought in a sentence, no more. in your practice. Later on, you might be able to put two, a major one and a minor one. Every sentence should have one clear dominating thought, and that's all. This is what we've been doing. And you don't try to cram 50 thoughts into one sentence, which no one can follow, starting with ourselves. 3 sentences? You can start it now with any letter you want, anything. Just start anywhere. Give one sentence. Don't think about 2 and 3, and then add 2 and 3 as you're sitting there. Did you raise your hand? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
A double sentence seems awkward for me. A triple sentence seems much, much easier. I know not why.
Last chance.
Is not enough.
Would you repeat that? So,
A victory a day is not enough.
period.
One can spend the rest of it congratulating oneself. The self he congratulates is not himself.
Very good. See how utterly simple? Leland, compare this to some of the things you've been talking about. See, you say, well, that is not profound enough. I'm probably quoting someone, but profundity is simplicity, and simplicity is profundity. You have to have a direct mind that gets right to the point. Everything you have said in this little exercise has been accurate, and who said beautiful? Beauty. Because we can all understand it. Everything has been understood up to this point. Nothing has been confusing. We know what you're talking about. That's what we want. We want to be able to know what I'm talking about. And when I talk, I want you to understand. If I understand, because my mind is clear, I can make you understand. And if you don't understand, you can work with it, because I've given you something clear to work with. Last chance. All right. One, would you ask a question of anyone in the BC group and have them answer it for you, please?
All right. Mr. Rudy, why am I depressed? How can I work with it? How can I learn something from being depressed?
Depression comes when you're expecting something to happen, like expecting visitors maybe. You're expecting a gift, a letter. You're expecting something to happen, and then you take a glimpse of what you really are, and you see, or you're trying to be someone that you're not. Then you take a glimpse of what you really are, that emptiness, and you fall into depression. Depression is wrong because you're still dwelling in thought. You're it. It's going to keep you there, and perhaps other negativities are going to come in. Now the way out is not to identify with it, not to be it. You can separate from it. It'll come back and it'll come back trying to drag you down. But you can separate from it because you're going to refuse to go with it. You can see how it has controlled your life. That's why it's very necessary to start breaking away from any negativity, any kind. Just break away from it. That's the plunge that you have to take into the unknown. Don't expect anything. Just break away from it. That's all there is to it.
Very good. Sally, will you ask a question of any of the BC group, please? This is the unexpected that Dick talked about a minute ago. So that you don't have time to quickly prepare your stock answer, and just maybe you will talk from yourself for a change instead of from conditioned knowledge.
Why do I things from other people? Why is it that I try to please other people? Why do I want other people's approval?
Because, Miss Sally, we don't know who we are. We're lost. And I want other people to tell me who I am. I do not know who I am, and I want to be somebody. For instance, how about if I feel ignored or rejected? I want people to like me. So I'm going to sacrifice my natural integrity to you and to everyone to get this thing, so people will accept me. I might even give them gifts, tell them how nice I am. Give them many things. I'm sacrificing myself to them. And this is very painful, but I don't see it. I think I'm being nice and good when my inner motive is for something else. To tell me who I am. Does this answer your question?
Yes.
Rudy, will you ask Joan a question?
Why do I tend to dislike certain people that I meet on the street? There are certain types. You know, maybe you have had this experience where you see someone and you just naturally dislike him. Not naturally, I mean just so fast that you didn't think about it.
There may be more than one reason. One reason that comes to me immediately is that we mechanically associate them with people that we have known in the past. And in this case, that we have disliked. That if you see a man a block away who walks perhaps the way your uncle or your cousin walked, and you didn't like your uncle or your cousin, then just seeing that walk will, in your mind, you will associate that man with the person that you didn't like, that you knew years ago. And it's a fast, automatic response, which makes it mechanical. You don't really have to get to know the man, or you would find it difficult to know the man in an objective way, because you have already associated him with someone that you did know that you didn't like. There may be, there are probably other things that connect with it, but that seems to be the automatic response.
Yes, mechanical association, mechanical response is practically the whole answer to that. Which, because you were asleep, didn't catch. It came in through the door before you even caught it. So you're trying to catch it before it comes in the door. The rest of the meeting will be simply an open, general discussion. We can talk about anything we want. Any loose ends over the past few days that you'd like to talk about, that we can all go into, we will now do that. Please put it in the form of questions and answers. If someone makes a comment or asks a question and the person next to you would like to comment on it, that's fine. What would you like to talk about? What would you ask if you were all alone with someone and you thought might know the answer? What would you ask him? Yes?
What is the BC group?
What is the BC group?
What does BC stand for?
Boulder City, Nevada.
Check.
Right.
I heard a phrase.
That's the lady over there.
The lady, then we'll...
I was just going to ask you, when someone in your group or in any group confesses, say I confess to a terrible characteristic I've discovered in myself, don't we have to watch very carefully that this is a type of negative bragging?
Oh, yes, indeed. Oh, yes. And that can be spotted very easily. I will tell you, as a side thought, yes, the answer, of course, is yes. We can, we can want to be the biggest sinner in the group, for example, or the biggest, anything that's negative, you name it. And that's, of course, a subtle form of boasting. And it's very obvious. No problem. Who, did you raise your hand, Rudy? Yes.
A phrase, I don't think it was mentioned here, it was not mentioned here, but I heard it before. The fool that allows himself to be, that continues to be a fool, will become wise.
Yes. Who said that? Blake or somebody? The fool who continues in his folly will become wise. What does that mean?
I think this is what it means. To be yourself. To find yourself as being foolish in other ways.
Right.
So you're going to do them consciously so you can see how it hurts you and hurts the other individual.
Right. Right. We understand that esoterically speaking now, don't we? We know what it's getting at. The lady over here.
How can we overcome panic?
Can we overcome panic? Well, how many things does panic connect with? Fear, impulsiveness, not knowing what to do, and so you let yourself go over to a mechanical response, the thing you've been doing all your life. How do you overcome panic? By doing everything we've talked about since the series began. Seeing it, refusing to go along with it, because it gives you, panic may give you a false feeling of life. See? The answer is so general, I don't think we need to go into it. Do everything we've done here, and panic will fall away of itself, and so will everything connected with it. We don't get rid of just one problem. You get rid of one, you get rid of the whole business. Because they all have the same foundation, which we now know what the foundation is, this artificial personality down here. I'm panicky because I'm going to lose my money or my wife or whatever. I'm panicky because I'm really afraid of losing the me. Therefore, I have to go through the very painful process of losing the me, after which I can never be panicky over anything else again. Panic is a synonym for fear, anxiety, right? Right. One.
I would like to ask a question, somebody Dick? Suppose I had something I did a long time ago, say 20 years ago, that it was a humiliation to me, something foolish, I don't care what it was. How can I work with this thing right now, right here? Could you give me something to go?
Right at the present moment, how can you work? Well, first I would ask why you're concerned or worried over something that happened in the past. Why do you continue to dwell with your thoughts in the past rather than just the right now? We have to observe, I think, how much of our time we spend in the past or the future, rather than consciously just enjoying the present moment. It stems back to what we've been talking about. We're trying to preserve a self that really isn't there. And if we can see that by living either in the past or the future, we're dragging that into the now and rooting the now, we can begin to get a glimpse of dropping it, of not dragging all this baggage along with us, all these thoughts that should be dropped and just left where they are. Why do we worry about what we did 20 years ago, or as Vernon said 5 minutes ago? We're trying to protect. If we're worried about it, we're protecting the self.
Yeah.
Would it be in keeping with the understanding here, in connection with Rudy's question, Dick's answer, the statement, Juan's question, Rudy's statement a few moments back, start with Rudy, and quotation from We Fought Blake. Is the concern that we have about something that happened 20 years ago, activated mechanically or otherwise by the dim awareness that we are repeating the pattern over and over again. And perhaps 20 years ago that pattern resulted in an obvious disaster of some sort, of what we consider to be a disaster.
Right.
We've salvaged ourselves, folks, from that disaster, but we have a sneaking suspicion that we're still, well, in states of panic at least, prone to repeat this because the mechanism is still
operating. Yes. Oh yeah.
I don't know what I pinpointed. It seems
Yeah,
that things that have been said all vector in.
Emotionalized memory is very powerful. That this is one form of the devil, right? Emotionalized memory. We don't want to look back to 20 years ago when we were really so cruel to that ex-husband or ex-wife, when we were so arrogant, when we had that authority over the other person. We don't want to see it because it violates a present image we have of ourselves. Therefore, we're still operating under this whole process of I, of self, which involves time. What we have to do, to make it a short little talk here, is to be able to use memory, see the fact that you were cruel, foolish, arrogant 10 years ago or 5 minutes ago, and then drop it right now and not permit memory to continue to activate I. Because all of us, in our lack of understanding of what it's all about, would rather be cruel and vicious and arrogant than to be non-existent. Don't you see what happens? When you no longer live in time, you and I become non-existent as the condition in built-up I. This is what it's all about, to end the I. The leap into the dark. Every day, this is why we're doing this. To leap in, give us ourselves the courage to leap into the dark. But there's many, many things connected with this, including thinking in short, simple sentences. So even our simple level minds are working properly. If we don't see that, we can't go on to the idea of not connecting memory with an I. This is why a free mind is never ashamed of anything, no matter how evil he or she might have been in the past, because he sees at last that he doesn't have a perpetuating I that continues from Monday to Tuesday, from March till April, from 1972 to tonight. There is no perpetuating I at all. You and I are new right this second. But if the mind jumps in and says, no, you've got to be successful, you've got to be the up-and-coming businessman, you've got to be the kindly-faced elderly counselor, or whatever it might be, the mind leaps in and blocks our consciousness that we are free from time right now. This is what we're trying to get onto, and we're getting onto it. Boy, we're doing the right thing. We're on the right track. We've got a long ways to go, but we've seen it. We know what we have to do. Now we're doing it. This is what we're doing, getting free of time, of the pseudo-self carried over from memory. Now, then you can think, now listen to this, then you can think back to 20 years ago to how cruel I actually was, how vicious you actually were. You can see it as a fact, but there's no I and there's no emotion, because you have cleaved the thing. You've cut yourself off. You do not exist as a perpetuating in time person. And you see this. Therefore, you see the fact, but the fact does not become emotional. And you feel guilty all over. I better go to church. It's out. You're free. You're out. And therefore free of the future, too. You're not carrying an I into the future as well. There's nothing to do tomorrow. You're free. Then, on the everyday level, you build your homes and you sell shoes and you cook dinners. What's the problem? There's no problem. You're out. You're sane. Okay? Yes. Sal.
You're saying that if I look at it, I don't see that I was cruel 20 years ago, but I see that something cruel
Ah,
happened 20
okay.
years ago.
Very good. That's a good distinction. There was cruelty there. There was no really I there to begin with. You or I was taken over by mechanical forces, if you want. But I was responsible. See, you tell people that and they evade that you are responsible for that. I am. By taking that responsibility, we get to go out. That's a good point. Back here.
By looking at it, observing it, and trying to see why this happened, and learning from it so that it wouldn't happen again will also allow for the...
Oh, sure, sure. We see that we blew up because we were denied what we wanted, and so we see our egotism behind the blow up and so on. Joan was next, I believe.
Well, you've said that a man does not consciously hurt himself.
Right.
And when we look back and see that the mistake of 20 years ago hurt us and probably hurt another human or other human beings,
Right.
when we really see it, then and also see that it was a mechanical response to something. This also brings in self-forgiveness, doesn't
Sure,
it? Not
sure.
going to someone and saying,
Sure.
I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
and then not repeating it and not,
Right. Right.
causing the pattern to continue.
When you really see it, you don't repeat it. You don't blow up at your wife, your husband, or secretly hate the boss like you used to because you see all these things you say. That if I hate you, I am burning with my own hatred. Then beyond that, you have seen what we call a false feeling of life. That hatred is not giving you an aliveness that you're somebody. You see you are indeed burning yourself up. You see the difference. I am not going to burn myself up anymore in order to hang on to this idea that I am dynamic or I am have a right to hate you. That's it. I have a right to hate you for what you did. All that is out. No, sir, I'm not going to burn myself anymore. I did it 40, 50, 60 years. Goodbye. This is the end. Right. This lady.
This understanding also deepens and increases your understanding of other people's actions, which has this tremendous sort of continuous action on or non-action on non-reaction. You understand they can't help what they've done because they're totally within. But you first have to see it in yourself and feel
Exactly.
those layers
Of course.
before you can. Then there's no fighting or no, I won't react. There's none of that because it doesn't even come up. You don't have to.
We all know exactly what you're saying. Right. True. You don't expect the little black dog to behave like a human being. You don't expect sleeping people to behave consciously as if they can do better. They can't. Remember in the New Testament something about ears. Those that have ears to hear, let them hear. We have to have a new kind of hearing in order to understand these things. This is all we've discussed in these 5 meetings is a foreign language to that man living way over on that hill over there, if he were to come into the meeting. You know that. We have no meaning to him at all. He might even get up and give us a talk on being a good person. And he would go home and be in agony at night. Take about 5 drinks maybe. Yes?
What do you think of the class?
Like it.
What further?
I think it's interesting.
The boy says he likes the class because you can think.
I think it's interesting.
Pardon?
I think it's interesting.
It's interesting, yes.
What is interesting? I'm with you on the
To me, it has a value.
What's the value?
Because it has value. That's fair enough. That's fine right there. Right there. That's enough. Yes?
Where does sexuality lead, and how is it related to the work?
That is not a clear-cut question. And from now on, Leland, I will not answer a question that is not clear from you. Now you rephrase a clear question and we'll go into it.
I thought about it before, and it seemed that it stated a clear question.
No, it is not a clear question at all. I'm going to leave it with you. This is you.
All right. One question.
Where does sexuality lead to? What does that mean?
Well,
Now you ask a short, clear question.
well, I could answer that.
All right, you answer it for us, and we'll tell you that it's probably nonsense. Your answer will be on the level of the question.
Now, wait a minute. If you're asking what sense is the question, in the work we see that there are different ways that we are expressing God or the silence or energy or what you want to call it. We're expressing it intellectually. emotionally, sexually, okay? The work is involved in cleaning up these functions so that it leads on to something else. There is, for example, a higher intellectual functioning. This whole beginning of the meeting was dealing with how do we get rid of the junk in our mind so that we can think clearly, okay? In other words, that whole thing leads in a given direction. It has aim, it has purpose, all right? Likewise with our emotions. I do not want to feel some negative thing towards someone else because I see the contradiction of it. I see that it only keeps me in the place where I am. All right? So I see that those things lead on to something else. My question is then, to where does sex lead? Where does this fit into the whole picture? How does it make sense?
How does what make sense?
Sexuality itself. Is it simply a form of pleasure? Is it what does it say? You see, I can see different manifestations of the intellect, in its functioning, understanding different things, of the emotions, of my feelings. And
all right. Now stop right here. Okay, we've got something to work with now. Leland, you take everything you've said in the last minute and condense it into a single, clear, concise sentence, and stop right there. Do this. Go ahead.
That was the initial question. Where does
now start all over and give us a short question.
Okay.
One that makes sense.
The question, to what does sexuality lead, makes sense to me. I tried to explain how it makes sense to me.
Well, I'm sorry. Rephrase it. And you should be able to do it if it's clear in your mind.
Sexuality is one function of life.
Okay.
How does it relate to other functions of life?
Okay, all right. Now we have a reasonably clear question. You have a body, you have a mind, you have emotions, you have gestures, you have responses, you have a sexual center, sexual parts, call it what you want. But don't stop with your physical body, because you are united and allied with and a part of the whole business, the whole world. I'm not generalizing too much, just follow. Now I'll repeat what I told you before. When one of these parts, but we'll confine it for now to an individual, including his physical body, when one of the parts takes over and dominates the other, then you're an unbalanced human being. Then you're being dominated. Instead of the whole business, like a well-adjusted automobile engine, each taking its own part, one part takes over and dominates the other, then you are in conflict, you are being commanded by one part, and you're not going to function even normally in this one part. If I want to be a great athlete and run in the Olympic Games when they come around again, and I devote my whole life to developing my physical body, making myself strong and supple, and I ignore my mind, then obviously I'm not functioning as a totally harmonious human being, even on the physical level. I'm off balance, and this dominates me because I want to win the mile run, I guess it's 1,500 meters now, in the next Olympic Games. This will obsess me. And I won't think clearly about anything, because now, instead of every part functioning in its proper turn, I'm being obsessed. And then I ruin myself, and I ruin everyone I come in contact with, because this is all I have to give to you, is my blab about how I'm going to win the 1,500 meters at the Olympic game. Now, sex. If I am unbalanced, I don't mean dreadfully insane or anything like that, but if my mind is not working properly in relation to my sexual center, and my emotions are not working properly, then my sex center will dominate my mind, dominate my emotions, dominate my physical body, and therefore I will not be able to alternate using my sexual center properly in its proper place, and then switching over and using my mind properly, and then using my emotions properly, and using my hands properly. I'll be dominated quite unconsciously perhaps, by sex thoughts, by obsession with sex thoughts. So I have a deep problem. Therefore, I have to put sex, very simply, in its proper place. And I do this, again, same thing as the lady's question in connection with panic. I do this by doing everything we're talking about here. So, now here's the summary, and a very interesting one. When the whole is in command, none of the parts gets out of command and takes me over and obsesses me. I might be, instead of sex, I might be obsessed with intellectual knowledge, and then I become the professor who thinks he knows all the answers. Or I might be obsessed in my emotional center, and I become a flighty little stage actress, and when I walk into the room I'm flighty, I'm nervous, and I don't even know that I'm taken over by my emotions. When we understand that each part has its function, and we're one in the whole, then each part will come up and function properly. And then I might be interested in sex when it's proper and when nature says so, instead of being dominated by it.